You know, in higher education, we all know what truly transformational learning looks like. It's that one research project, that internship, that completely changes a student's entire perspective. But we've always faced this huge challenge. How do we actually measure the impact of our most powerful teaching practices?
So, let's just ask the big question right up front. What if we could finally close that gap? What if the richest, most meaningful learning experiences on our campuses could also be the ones we can measure with the most clarity and consistency? Today, we're going to dig into how some new tools might finally make that a reality.
And this brings us right to what I like to call the high-impact paradox. It's this central conflict, this tricky situation where the very best things we do for our students are also the absolute hardest to assess in any kind of meaningful way.
Now, when I say best things, what I'm really talking about are high-impact practices, or HIPs for short. You know them. These are the experiences, we're talking undergraduate research, capstone projects, community-based learning, that folks like George Koo and the AAC&U have proven time and again boost student success across the board.
Okay, and this slide? This is the paradox in action. On the left, you've got the real evidence these HIPs produce, rich, deep stuff like student reflections and portfolios. But then look at the right. This is how we often end up measuring them. Participation rates, satisfaction surveys. I mean, there's a Grand Canyon-sized disconnect here.
Which really brings us to a crucial point. It's a simple idea, but it's so powerful. If we're going to call these practices high impact, then our assessment of them has to live up to that name. It just has to be high quality too.
So why is this so darn hard? Well, the reason might actually surprise you. The problem isn't a lack of evidence of student learning. Not at all. It's that we have an absolute abundance of it.
This quote really gets to the heart of it. Our assessment efforts don't fail because students aren't showing us their learning. No, they fail because the sheer scale of all that proof is just completely overwhelming.
Just think about it for a second. Your institution has mountains, literal mountains, of this rich qualitative data. We're talking hundreds, sometimes thousands, of student reflections, project reports, e-portfolios. But we simply don't have the human hours or the staff to sit down and make sense of it all systematically. We're data-rich, but we're totally insight-poor.
All right, so this is where a new approach starts to come into focus. We're going to look at generative AI, but not as some replacement for human experts. Instead, think of it as a new kind of tool for this very old problem of scale. Let's call it an AI sense-making accelerator.
Now, we have to be super clear on this distinction because it's everything. We are absolutely not talking about using AI as a judge. It's not here to evaluate learning or hand down a final verdict, not its job. Instead, we're framing AI as an assistant. Its only job is to support our human experts, to make all that evidence manageable, and ultimately to speed up the process of making sense of it all.
And that's exactly what we mean by a sense-making accelerator. It's a tool that helps us organize, interpret, and find cool connections in massive amounts of qualitative data. But, and this is the most important part, it always keeps human judgment firmly in the driver's seat.
Okay, so if AI is the tool, how do we use it the right way? I mean, this is about way more than just the tech. It's about having a responsible process. So let's actually walk through what an effective and safe workflow looks like. All right, here's how it breaks down in 5 basic steps. First, you align the student work you have, the artifacts, to your learning outcomes. Step 2, you use AI for what's called first cycle coding. Just think of it as having the AI do a first pass to spot the main themes. Third, you start connecting the evidence. Maybe you see how learning differs between an internship and a research project. Fourth, and this is super powerful, you can start to surface equity patterns. And finally, step 5, you have the AI draft some summaries that your faculty and staff then review, edit, and ultimately give the final stamp of approval. The whole point of this entire workflow is to take that mountain of data and make it interpretable. That's the magic word. Because when we can actually make sense of the learning evidence we already have, the quality of our assessment work just improves dramatically. It's that simple.
Okay, that's all great in theory, but what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into a case study of a university that put this idea into practice and see how they went from just having scattered data to having a solid defense of their programs.
So the situation was probably pretty familiar to a lot of you. This regional university had great participation numbers in undergraduate research and service learning. But when their accreditors came knocking and asked for direct evidence of what students were actually learning, well, their claims were a little hard to back up. They had hundreds of student reflections, but no real way to analyze them.
So they decided to run a pilot. After making sure all the student data was anonymized, they gave the GenAI model a really specific to-do list. Code all these reflections using established rubrics. Summarize the main learning themes you see, and highlight any differences you find between the research projects and the service learning experiences.
And here's where the human expertise came roaring back in. The faculty, they were worried the AI would oversimplify things, so they held a validation session. They sat down and went through everything the AI produced. They refined some of the codes, they merged a couple of themes together, and in one case they looked at an analysis and just rejected it entirely. The humans had the final and most important say.
And that, right there, was the key takeaway from the whole thing. The GenAI didn't evaluate student learning, it just made all that evidence manageable. And for the first time, the university could clearly see that while both experiences improved problem solving, it was the service learning students who showed way stronger development in civic identity. Now that is the kind of systematic evidence they could finally use. So what's the big picture here? What does this new capability really unlock for all of us? Well, it's about finally moving beyond those powerful but isolated anecdotes and getting to broad, actionable insights about student learning that can help the whole institution. Let's be crystal clear about the goal. This is not, and I repeat, not about trying to mechanize the deeply human act of reflection. It's about honoring that reflection. It's about finally making it usable, by taking those incredible insights seriously and learning from them at a massive scale.
So I'm going to leave you with one final question to take back with you. Just think about your own campus. Which high-impact practice do you have that everybody knows is powerful? The one that has the absolute best stories, but maybe the weakest, most anecdotal evidence to back it all up? That right there, that might be the perfect place for you to start.